Dope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Chris Carlson. We're live per usual, 6 on the West, 9 on the East, and 2 UK time. We got I'm talking about jam-packed full show for you. Lots of topics to get into. Obviously, we're going to start where we normally start, which is recap, right? The world is debating and still, kind of taken back by the performance, even though Jason Sosa was really a large underdog. The fact that Lomachenko took care of him that easy, and just the way he did it, the superb footwork, he bedazzled a bunch of people. We're going to break down the fight. We're going to break down the card. Actually, as far as top to bottom, sure, you can say that it wasn't a competitive fight in the main event, but that was kind of, we kind of thought that was how that was going to go, right? I mean, I don't think that's really that far out of the imagination, but the other two fights had a lot of interesting things happen to them. The first fight, Usyk and Hunter, was a much better fight than most of us thought. You can look back at it now and say that was going to be a close fight or a competitive fight, but it was good, and it made me look at Usyk a little bit different. I still think as of right now he's the top cruiserweight, but it's interesting. I thought he fought with a different style than we've seen, and Hunter really impressed me. And then obviously, Vostik, great knockout of Gonzalez. No matter where you think Gonzalez is, in his career, I've heard some people kind of try to take away from that knockout, that Gonzalez, doesn't have anything left or whatever, but I didn't think he'd knock him out. Let's put it that way. So, and then obviously overseas, Flanagan Petrov, a much closer fight than the judges gave it to him. That's for damn sure. I mean, two of the cards were just like, what? What are you talking about? So we're going to talk about that. Terry Flanagan, Peter Petrov, Liam Smith, and Liam Williams. Sounds like they're going to be, guiding themselves, Frank Warren, to a rematch, obviously. A good fight. Very entertaining at times, but obviously a poor mistake by the referee. We didn't have a good referee weekend. That's for damn sure. We had a couple of fights that should have been stopped. So we'll talk about a variety of stuff. Also, real quick, that PBC on FS1 had an interesting co-feature, but the rest of it was basically, a showcase fight for Jose Cito Lopez, and then of course a bunch of pro debuts under that's what it was. The Prey didn't have a chance that night because it was a bunch of pro debuts, and for the most part anyway, a bunch of quick fights, you know what I mean? So we will go heavy on the recap. We're going to take a look at Ricky Burns versus Julius Indongo. Indongo came on the scene with just a vicious first-round knockout of Troy Notsky. So we're going to break down that fight as well. I'll be honest, though, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one to predict, not because of the Ricky Burns side, although you think, will he finally kind of fall off or whatever, and fade enough to actually get knocked out or whatever. But Indongo, I mean, you look at his record and you're like, who is this guy? And so it's tough. Is it a flash in the pan? Was he just building his career, looking for a fight, got the opportunity, and here he is? You try to look at some other tape from other fights, but like I said, he just doesn't have any quality wins beyond his last one, so that'll definitely be interesting. In a show box as well coming up this weekend. Interesting prospect on the rise that a lot of people are talking about. I'm always looking forward to a show box. But other than that, it's news heavy. Kovalev and Ward are doing the New York, LA, Oakland pressers. A lot of interesting quotes out of that. One side saying this, the other side saying that. One side saying what they're going to do June 17th. The other side saying what they feel like they're going to do. And we've gotten a little bit of details of the negotiation. We've gotten some details from the actual fighters. Some reasons, some excuses. This one's called No Excuses, so we're going to dig into that. Also, Gervonta Davis made a couple of fights for himself, didn't he, the other day? He made a couple of them. You know, he's got Tevin Farmer, who's a very underrated fighter, very solid. I'd like to see that fight. Easter Jr., if and when, I assume when, that tank's going to go up to 35 at some point, right? He's a young cat. He's a big dude, though, right? Big 135 pounder as far as size, not necessarily height. Not like 130 pounders are that tall, though, are they? So he got a fight with Tevin Farmer. He got a fight with Easter Jr., potentially. And then Broner at some point down the line. He set it up all in one day. This guy, this young pup, is really taking the, the world by storm, man. It's pretty damn funny. Also, some news with PBC and the Spike. That is no longer. We're going to get into that. They had a 3-year deal with 33 shows, but there was some detail that was not released to us, like most things in boxing, right? Especially dealing with Al Heyman and the secrecy he likes to keep. Not all bad, though, if you hear the quotes from the Spike side. To be honest with you, it's actually kind of interesting, being that they're open, not only just the PBC but other boxing. So we'll get into that as well. It was basically the third season was kicking in, and they were negotiating to redo that, or to do a third year. So it was kind of a strange thing, the way they were talking about the deal originally and actually how it actually turned out. But a couple other news items. I mentioned Easter Jr. He's got a fight, a done deal now. So we're going to talk about that. And just some other news, Showtime and Pacquiao Horn. I know that everybody's pumped to hear about Pacquiao Horn. I mean, wow. You know what I mean? I'm so jacked for that fight. I can't even tell you how excited I am about that fight. Obviously, you hear the sarcasm in my voice. But hey, if you want to do a world tour, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to rip you. Any. That's you. That's what you want to do. Just don't be trying to put that shit on pay-per-view over in the States. I'll tell you that, man. We don't need that. We don't need that. Please don't give us that. Oh my God. We'll see how that works. So anyway, like I said, bunch of news to get to. Fight announcement, current fight announcements that really pretty excitable. But we are going to lead how we normally lead the show, right? And that is, of course, talking a recap from a busy, very busy weekend. And you know what? That was crazy. What the? Oh, the Indongo. Okay, I'm sitting here tweeting something, and it says something about translated. It says translated from Haitian Creole. I'm like, whoa, wait a sec. Oh, okay, I got it. That's pretty cool. Anyway, you guys don't know what the hell I'm talking about, more than likely. And half the time I don't either, so that's okay. So we're going to start with Lomachenko. And, to talk about Loma. And I notice myself and a lot of people included, when you say his name enough, it's hard not to not have the A in there. I don't know why. It's pretty funny to me. I've noticed myself doing it, and I noticed several other shows doing it. It's quite funny. I'm sure he doesn't necessarily find it that funny, but we're going to start with recap. And it's kind of a two-part thing because we're going to break down the action, right? I'm going to kind of break down the whole – I'm going to break down the fight, but then we're going to talk about pound for pound because the conversation that's going on with Lomachenko needs to be addressed when it comes to where people rank him. And I, you know me, if you've listened to the show, you know me. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, he is third. There's no other way around. He can't be second. He can't be fourth. You know what I mean? I don't get too deep into this stuff, to be honest with you. I just don't. I've always said I have about 17 fighters in my pound for pound list, and so it lingers, it just does for me. That's just me personally. A lot of people get caught up in that. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. But either way, a lot of people saying he's the best pound for pound guy. Now, he's got a pretty good resume, considering, he's only has like 8 fights. That's for damn sure, right? You have to include the Salido loss. I know a lot of people don't want to for some odd reason. And, the excuse or the reasoning, however you want to, think of it. A lot of people are saying, hey, it was only his second fight. You know how much he's improved since that second fight? I hear you. But he only has 8 fights. So when you say, well, that was his second fight, you act like that was light years ago. It's like, yeah, but he's only had 8. So let's just calm down. Some people are already saying he's better than Mayweather because of activity. Obviously, they don't really remember him at 130, 135, but that's a different story. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to bring it through. And obviously, HBO, this is another one of their guys that they're hyping up to the point where at some point you can do damage on the other side, especially if he were to take another loss. You know what I mean? But we're going to talk about it a little bit. And sometimes you have to let a career play out. I mean, there's no point in crowning people just yet. Why don't we let their career? And I'm not even saying Loma would have to get to 30 fights because it's a whole different ball game with him. It's a whole different ball game with him. But I would say let him do what he's going to do at 35, whether that's the Salido rematch or not, right? Or let's see what he does at 135. Let's see him do something before you put the next. And, we can blame HBO. We can blame fanboys and girls. But ESPN has a lot to do with this too, as far as sports culture. And they've been trying to find the next and claiming the next Jordan for so many years, right? I mean, so it's always the next. It's always the next. We live in a microwavable news cycle, right? It's up quick for you. It's hot. It's probably shit, but it's hot, and then it's gone. Recycle. So all this plays a part in why people think Loma is the number one guy, and now he's already the best fighter of the generation, which I just can't. I think we're figuring this out. But let's break down the action real quick because that shit won't take long, right? That's for sure. And Loma, no matter what I say, positive or negative, not negative. I mean, there's not much negativity to say, right? But no matter what I say about him, you're always going to have some people that are going to be mad or whatever, and then that's okay. That's just fine with me. But I let the guy frickin' do his thing. The guy has so much frickin' skill. This guy is just full of skill. Clearly. I mean, his footwork is phenomenal. I think that there were a couple, they started talking Pernell Whitaker. I don't think it's defensively like that. As far as that fluid, I'm not talking about footwork. I'm talking about body movement and all that, upper body movement. I don't think it's on that par, but it's up there. It's up there. The footwork is phenomenal. It really is. And as far as an eye test, I mean, this guy's passing the shit out of it. Lomachenko is. That's something you can't deny. No doubt about it. You just can't. So I didn't give him a round, Sosa. He fought hard. He definitely fought hard. But he just got dominated, really. First couple of rounds, you could tell Loma was more aggressive than we've seen him. He was pressing the action more. In fact, end of round 2, maybe 15 seconds left, he had Sosa in a corner and had like a mini flurry on him. It was footwork and score, in and out, just outclassing him. Completely outclassing him. He punch stats through 4 rounds, 85-27. Then he started getting to the body, right? And there was times when, like in the 5th round, Sosa may have some short moments, but that's all they were. 6th round, completely dominant. After 6 rounds, 156-41. A round later, these are lands, 190-49. That just puts it in perspective. And, Jason Sosa tried, like I mentioned. He was going to go out on his shield. They called the fight after 8 rounds, or was it 9 rounds? 9 rounds, which, thank goodness. 275-68. I mean, that was probably the most comfortable, the smoothest performance I've seen out of Lomachenko. Virtuoso type performance. Now, I know Sosa's Sosa, okay? I'm not going to sit there and put this guy on a pedestal, Sosa. He's a tough dude. Has some good wins of late, no doubt about that. Fonfara knocked him out. Got a decent win against Smith. Fought hard, won a couple of rounds against Walters, but that's about it. So I'm trying to put it all in perspective without just dumping on him. I don't want to just dump on this guy. So it was a great performance. The rating, the fight itself, averaged 822. It peaked at close to 900,000. The whole card, I think, was 733 or something. And to have a triple header is a positive thing for HBO. We haven't seen that, especially all in one place. Sometimes they'll do a replay and have a double header. So it was nice to actually, see, okay, wow, wow, this is actually pretty cool here. Like, they got a triple header, you know what I mean? So kudos to HBO. They've been having a rough year, or not even this year, just overall. It's been about a year and a half, something like that. But I thought they opened the year with a very entertaining doubleheader. They got a really good highlight knockout, not a good card, but a good highlight knockout in that Lemieux-Stevens fight. Now they don't have a normal card till what, May 20th? So that's quite a long time. They do have a pay-per-view, though, coming up. 2 pay-per-views coming up. But kudos to HBO. This, the main event wasn't some thrilling thing, but we see a lot of favorites in today's boxing no matter what. So we all pretty much knew Loma was going to do it, and he did. He did. Real quick, I want to talk. I'm going to mention the other 2 fights, but as far as him pound for pound, I don't know. I can't put him number 1. and I've kind of said this about Kovalev and Ward and Chocolatito and Crawford and Golovkin and all these guys, right? I've kind of said right now I still think we're in the mode of turning over. I don't think we can crown a king just yet. And I know sometimes rankings and all that someone's got to be number one in rankings, obviously. But that's just my opinion on it. You know, I kind of felt like Kovalev, Ward, whoever won that was going to be the best, right? But I don't think anyone clearly won that fight. So I got to see the rematch. Chocolatito, speaking of rematches, he has one coming up, and he owes Quatros and Estrada one, right? And it sounds like they're going to fight to get the rematch. So that's kind of cool. He doesn't have to go through both of them, though. You know, that's kind of weird. But, you know, that's how it happens. So Loma, like I said, I can't say it anymore. The guy's passing the shit out of the eye test. Nicholas Walters is a very solid win. Is he a Hall of Fame fighter? No. Is he pretty damn solid, though? Yeah, definitely. Some people want to just talk about the 11 months he was off. That's fair. But I just don't see that would have been the difference in winning the fight. You know what I mean? Gary Russell Jr., a good win. We're going to find out more about Russell, well, hopefully, in the next year or two, because that's all he wants to fight. He only wants to fight a couple more times, he said. That's a whole different show. But to me, Gary Russell Jr. is pretty good. It's a good fight, but I can't sit there and call that some elite win because, after all, Gary Russell, what's he got? Gonzalez? Is that his best win? That's a good win, especially how he did it. You know, especially how he did it. That's what made it a good win where you're like, oh, yeah. Now, we know Mares got stopped early from him. That also makes a good win. That was a couple years back. But he has some good wins. You know, Rocky Martinez, it's a pretty good win. It's good. It's not great, but it's good. Now, he also has a loss. Orlando Salido. And I know they say, Chris, but that was his second fight. Yeah, but like I mentioned earlier, dude only has 8 fights or whatever. So stop acting like that happened 17 years ago. You know what I mean? I just can't crown anybody just yet. It's not even about the 8 fights because some people are saying, well, we got to wait till he gets to 25 and 35 fights. No, I don't agree with that either because how can you do that? In the next 10 fights, that might be his career. You never know. He may have 12 fights and that's it. You never know. So it takes a while. 3 fights to get them all televised on HBO is not easy in 1 year. So I'm not trying to crown the guy, but I don't want to take credit away because he does have some solid wins. Now, in his one loss, when we say, well, he's improved so much, it does seem like he has. However, and I've mentioned this quite a lot. And CT, I'm about to go to you here in a little bit, and same with 310. You know, the within – what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Within the loss, I saw Lomachenko improving, you know, as the fight dragged on. And I also think he's better at not getting clinched. You could see even in this last fight when Sosa tried, he was able to pull his hands off or pull away. You could see he's starting to get veteran tricks, Loma is, like knocking the gloves down and hitting somebody. He was kind of I think he needs to learn how to clear space a little bit and then do it instead of just knocking a hand. It was pretty funny. He was like literally punching the glove to punch after it. You don't see that as much. Usually you make it a little bit smoother and you kind of clear space with your forearm. You know what I mean? Or you just push it down. But sometimes you just straight up push it down and follow right behind it. But the guy is phenomenal. Footwork-wise, you're not going to really get better than that, in my opinion. But on the inside as a fighter, the one thing we can't say that he's improved against inside fighters because they fought Gary Russell Jr. And then after that, you got to admit it was pretty good matchmaking until he started picking back up with the Martinezes in the Walters, right? So how can you sit there and say, well, that was so long ago, only his second fight, he's improved? Well, we don't see it in the ring. Now, there's no way that him and his father aren't working on inside fighting, in my opinion, in the gym. I'd assume that his father really took, Junior to school after that fight when it comes to inside fighting and some things he's got to change about his style. But he still lost the fight to an inside fighter and is yet to face an inside roughhouse, dirty mother effer that's going to make it tough. He hasn't, so we don't know about that part. That's the one we don't know. And a lot of people go, well, he does, skill for skill, he's got Mikey covered. Sure, I hear that. Okay. In the middle of the ring, could you make an argument that he's quicker footed and quicker hands? Yes. However, just look at how that fight played out. And don't give me this, Salido was getting to Mikey. He chickened out, he pussied out of that fight when it was a, clear headbutt that broke his nose. He was slaughtering Salido. And was he doing it with the quickest, fastest footwork? Nope. He wasn't. So, but that doesn't mean, well, because of that fight, Garcia beats Loma. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, well, hold on. If he's so finesse and he's so quick-footed and fancy-footed, which he clearly is, his footwork is phenomenal. Why couldn't he fancy footwork himself away from Salido? I mean, that's a fair question. That's all. So I can't put him number one pound for pound and the best fighter of this generation just yet because I don't think anyone's there just yet. The reason why I said Kovalev is because now he has Ward. He's fought a Ward. He's fought a B-Hop when he still had something left in the tank. He fought a Pascal when he still had something left in the tank. You could tell what he took out of Pascal in his next fight and the fight after. So I'm not ready to crown this guy hands down number one pound for pound, period, because I think you need to add a little resume. I don't need him to get the 35 fights, though, to give him that. I just think my opinion on this subject is let's let this thing play out a little bit. Before we say he's better than Floyd, which I've heard because of the hand, because he moves his hands more. And I just think we should let this guy, why can't we just say this dude is phenomenal to watch? He's great for the sport. He's trying to fight the best. You know what I mean? Why can't we just appreciate him before all we do is get back into this freaking debate again? It's just funny how that works. But I'm going to go to the calls here. And actually, I've been streaming just the first part on YouTube live right now. There are some viewers on there. I'm going to go ahead and because it's not set up for Skype and everybody to call in and everything, I just kind of do the intro. So anybody watching on YouTube right now, I put a link in the group chat and also in the description box, there's a link too. So if you want to listen to the rest of the podcast, it goes for another 2.5 hours. It's also 646-381-4990. That's 646-381-4990. That's the number to call if you want to if you're on the go, you can listen to the whole show, but it runs for 90 minutes live. So anybody there in the chat, I'll actually put that number up there in the chat as well. I'm going to go ahead and sign off on YouTube. But, if you want to keep it going, 646-381-4990, or you can go to Blog Talk, check the description box, yada, yada, yada.